When an influencer tells you not to squat, bench, or deadlift, they are weak. Period. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. But a quick reminder, if you are watching, please click like on my video. If you're not following or subscribed yet, please do so. And if you would be so kind as to drop me a comment, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, I understand that's a bold statement, but let's just be realistic. There's a reason I say that, and I'm not saying that the big three are the be-all, end-all. I'm not saying they're the be-all, end-all of strength development. I'm not saying they're the be-all, end-all of bodybuilding. I'm not saying they're the be-all, end-all of gaining muscle. In fact, we know plenty of very successful bodybuilders who didn't do any of the basic classic lifts. Okay? We also know they're a small minority of the most successful ones. Okay? And you didn't see any of them until certain drugs were added to the stack, and I'll just leave it at that. When it was only steroids being used were the only drugs, that was unheard of, by the way. Until all the other stuff got added in. We didn't see that, but I digress back over to the point. You know that they're weak. And here's the problem we run into. Are we trying to be well-rounded, or are you people out there trying to win the Mr. Olympia? I'm going to assume the majority of people out there training actually want to be somewhat well-rounded. They have multiple goals. They're like, yeah, I would kind of like to be look good and be healthy and be explosive and be strong. Okay? They kind of want multiple things. Most people who are going to work out are looking just to be generally well-rounded, and strength is part of that. Absolutely part of that. And when you have people who are masquerading as influencers, giving advice and information, and they're not proficient at the big three, and they are weak, they don't want to display it. So they'll tell you, oh, don't do them. You know, and I'll give Paul Carter a pass. You know why? Because he was a top-level power lifter for many years before he went over into, I never squat, bench, and deadlift and went to machines. You know, he paid his dues. At least you know he was really strong at one time, and then he went over the other direction, and he's like, I don't like these lifts anymore. I don't want to do them. And he's taken that position, but he was pretty strong, and he's still pretty jacked and getting pretty good results. A whole lot of the guys who are giving you this rhetoric are not getting Paul's results either. Let's just throw that out there. And he's an old man. He's my age. He's pretty jacked. Still pretty jacked. But a whole lot of these guys are not necessarily that jacked. They might be lean. They might look good. They're probably not as big as you think they are. And then they don't move big weight. And that's a problem because they know that's a giveaway about their size. They know that they might look good on camera because of lighting, angles, them being short, them being really lean proportions. They're not that big. And when they can't move the big weights, it shows. When they go to deadlift 500 pounds and they can't pull it, like raw, you know they're not really that big. They're not carrying that much muscle. Their glutes and hamstrings aren't that big. Okay? Same thing when they can't bench. We know. And here's the other thing. They also don't want people to know they're not strong. So they don't promote the lifts and they don't do the lifts because they know these are standardized lifts by which we judge strength. And that is why they matter in this context. They are the lifts by which most people judge strength because they're the most commonly used lifts in strength sports. They have a lot of standards in place. We know what's expected. Okay? And here's the other thing. Old school real lifters all knew that. This is a newer generation. There's a younger generation of guys who came later, well, we don't care about any of that in the bodybuilding world. Really? Your predecessors, your ancestors would be rolling in their grave. Go back and think about the guys from Arnold's era. Any of those guys, tell them you don't squat, bench, or deadlift. You don't care how much you squat, bench, and deadlift. They would have made fun of you. Okay? These are your founding fathers, guys. They all did these lifts. They respected these lifts. And when I came up, it was the same way. It wasn't, oh, only power lifters do these. You don't think every bodybuilder and aesthetic-oriented guy in the gyms 25, 28, 30 years ago, you don't think they all bench pressed? All right, some of them cared about the incline more than the flat bench, but they were all strong on the incline. So that was the only pass you got. Back then, the only pass you got and you weren't laughed at and made fun of was the guy who says, well, I don't care about flat bench because I care about the incline for aesthetics. And you see the dude incline 3 plates aside. Like, okay, you're going to get a free pass. Because he's putting up a weight that's decent and respectable on a flat bench, but he's doing it on a 45-degree incline. You know what? It's like, we're going to let that slide. Because it's a harder version of the lift. Okay? So, again, these people are fronting. They don't want you to know they're weak. And then they pull the line. Well, I only care about gaining muscle. It's not relevant to gaining muscle. Just admit you're weak. Just stand up. Don't front. Just get up and go, you're weak. And you also know that size equals strength potential. You also know that if you were really carrying as much muscle as your pictures and your Photoshop look like, you'd be squatting 500 pounds, bro. You'd be repping 315 on the bench, bro. But you're not. You're fake. And the real lifters all know it. And all the old school lifters, like that was a norm. That used to be the thing. Like if I've said that, you guys have heard low blinders say that. So you've heard multiple independent sources say this over a decade ago. Back in the day, dudes who went on gear before they could squat, bench, and deadlift 300, 400, 500, including the bodybuilders, were made fun of. Like you cashed in your natty card, you went on the sauce before you could hit those lifts. It was considered a sign of weakness. It was kind of like, dude, like you were basically a bitch. You weren't respected because you didn't put in the work. Because at the end of the day, your strength is a reflection of your muscle. It's a reflection of your neural drive. It's a reflection of your work ethic. It's not just about powerlifting. You know, we all know this. Just like we could look at the fat powerlifter and go, dude, you're sloppy and you're really fat. You got a big belly. Okay? Same thing. That's a fair criticism. Dude can't walk up a flight of stairs and he's got a gut poking out 6 inches past his titties. That's a valid criticism. So you have some lean, slightly aesthetic guy who can't lift anything. He can't squat, bench, and deadlift. That's just as valid of a criticism. And that's the point we're making. And what they're doing, they're outing themselves when they say this. Like I said, I'll give them a pass if it's someone like Paul Carter, who is still crazy jacked for his age and used to actually be strong. But a lot of these other guys, no. Mm-mm. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.